everyone, welcome back to our channel Vet Insights Lab. This is Dr. Rashmi Mishra. We have started subject-wise lectures for various competitive exams like UG, PG, Ph.D, NET, ARS, ICAR, SRF, JRF and the veterinary officer exams of various states. We'll start with veterinary parasitology subject. In that, we will begin with the protozoology. So let's get started. The textbook that I referred for making my notes are Helminth's Arthropods and Protozoa of Domesticated Animals by Solsbay. Then the textbook of Veterinary Parasitology by Bhatia, Patak and Jewell, and the Essential of Veterinary Parasitology by Pal and Sanyal. So, veterinary protozoology. Let's understand the term by splitting the word. Proto, which means the first, zoa means the animal, and the logy means the study. So basically, protozoology is a Greek word which means the study of first animal on the earth. And most of the protozoas are free living. That means they are present either on the land or on the water. And only some protozoas are parasitic to the vertebrates and the invertebrates, and they will result in the huge economic losses in the form of mortality and morbidity. The five kingdom classification that has been proposed by R.H. Whitaker in the year 1969, which has Monera, Protist, Fungi, Plantae and the Animalia. In that kingdom Protista and the subkingdom Protozoa. So this subkingdom only we are going to discuss in the detail. Okay. Now, the protozoas are all the unicellular eukaryotic organism. That means all the protozoas are having single cell which perform all the vital activities. And the eukaryotic, that means they are having well-defined cell. They will be having cell membrane, cell organelles will be there. That is like endoplasmic reticulum, Golgi bodies, mitochondria, and they don't have cell wall. And we all know that the protozoas are microscopic. That means they cannot be seen with the naked eyes. But there are some protozoas that can be seen with the naked eyes. For example, Foraminifera, Xenophysophores, some ciliates like Spirostomum, then plasmodial slime molds like Physerum, then giant amoebas like Philomexa and the Chaos. The scientist who discovered the first protozoa is Anton von Leeuwenhoek. Hence, the Anton von Leeuwenhoek is only known as father of protozoology, and he discovered the Eimeria steda species. So here is the representation of the eukaryotic cell, how it will be there, how all the cell organelles will be there. And this is the picture of the Anton von Leeuwenhoek. Now, the structure of protozoa. So, all the protozoas are having cytoplasm and the nucleus. And both cytoplasm and nucleus together is known as the protoplasm. Now, the nucleus will be present in the two forms. The very first is vesicular nucleus, which is present in most of the protozoas. And the second is the compact nucleus, which is present in the few protozoas in the form of macronucleus. Now, the vesicular nucleus is having chromatin material very little, and that too in the scattered form. But when it comes to the compact nucleus, the chromatin will be massive amount and it will be densely packed. Now, the next point is nucleoplasm or the nuclear sap. And the vesicular nucleus, it is having the large amount of nucleoplasm. And in contrast, the the compact nucleus will be having very little amount of the nucleoplasm. Now, the third point is endosome, karyosome or the nucleolus will be present in case of vesicular nucleus, whereas these structures will be absent in case of compact nucleus. And also you should remember the karyosomes will be having, where they don't have DNA, whereas the nucleolus will be having the DNA present. The shape of the vesicular nucleus mostly will be spherical, but in case of compact nucleus, it will be of various shape like spherical, oval, cylindrical, sausage, molaniform and the horseshoe shape. Now, as I already mentioned, vesicular nucleus are present in most of the protozoas like the subphylum Mastigophora and the Sarcodina, whereas the compact nucleus is present in the Balantidium coli, that is ciliates, in the form of macronucleus. Okay. Now, usually the protozoas are having only one nucleus. But there are some protozoas that are having either two nucleus or more than two nucleus. And if both the nucleus are similar, that it will be, the examples are Dientamoeba and the Giardia. For example, you can see the picture over here of the Giardia, and these two are the nucleus, okay, which you can clearly see they are equal, or we can say similar. And there are Balantidium, which is having two nucleus that are dissimilar in size. The large nucleus is known as the macronucleus, which will be having the cytoplasmic function, and the small nucleus, it will be governing the reproductive function, that is known as micronucleus. This is the picture of Balantidium coli, and here this is the macronucleus, and the small one you can see over here is the micronucleus. So this is the micronucleus, and here that is the big one is the macronucleus. So the function you should remember, and the type, the similar nucleus and the dissimilar nucleus, that you should remember. It can come in your competitive exams. Now more than two nucleuses are present in the Protociliata and the genus Ophalina. Okay, so that can also come in your exam. Now the trypanosoma is having the characteristic trophonucleus, and the trophonucleus means the mitochondria which is having the DNA, and this trophonucleus will be governing all the life activities of the cell. The trypanosomas are also having kinetoplast, and this kinetoplast will be governing the locomotor function, and this is also known as chromatinic body. So basically this point is important because trypanosomas are only having trophonucleus and the kinetoplast. These two are the characteristic structures for the trypanosoma. And also in the ant-amoebas, they are having the extranuclear chromatoid bodies. That is also characteristic feature for the ant-amoebas. So this slide is very important overall. Now moving to the next slide, cytoplasm, which we all know that it is the protoplasm other than the nuclear cell. Now the cytoplasm, it can be, if it is present outer wall of the parasite, then it will be known as the ectoplasm, and the ectoplasm will be homogeneous or the haline. Whereas the cytoplasm, which will be present inside the cell, it is known as endoplasm, and it will be granular. So you should remember, the ectoplasm are having locomotion and sensation activities, whereas the endoplasm are having nutrition, excretion and reproduction activities, because in the endoplasm only all the cell organelles will be present. So here you can see clearly the nuclear material or the cytoplasm which is present surrounding the outer wall, it will be the ectoplasm, and the cytoplasm which will be present inside it, that will be the endoplasm. Okay, and both the ectoplasm and the endoplasm are separated by a limiting membrane which is known as the pedicel, and this pedicel will be absent in case of Sarcodina. So you should remember it is absent in case of Sarcodina. Now, the organ of locomotion. So basically, protozoas are having locomotory organelles like either pseudopodia, which are amoeboid structures, or the flagella, or the cilia. And if they are not having any locomotory organelles, then they will be having the locomotion by the gliding movement. And these gliding movement will be seen in case of Toxoplasma, Sarcocystis and the Babesia. So many a time the ICAR exam or the other VO exams, they are asking the gliding type of locomotion is present in which protozoa. So you should remember it is present in Toxoplasma, Sarcocystis and the Babesia, as they don't have any cell organelle or they don't have any locomotory organelles. Okay. Now moving to the first locomotory organelles, that is the pseudopodia, which we all know that these are the false feet, and these are used for the locomotion and also to take the food particles inside the body, and these are the ectoplasmic projections and are temporary. It is not a permanent projection, and this type of locomotion is present in the Sarcodina, that is ant amoeba. Okay, now the flagella, which are the whip-like structures, and these are also the protoplasmic structures. You should always remember the flagellas will be less in number compared to the cilia, and usually flagellas are 1 to 8 in numbers. Flagellas will be longer compared to the cilia. That means cilia are short. Okay, and these flagellas will be arising from the blepharoplast or the basal granules. So you should remember both flagella and the cilia are arises from the structure that is known as basal granules or the blepharoplast. And when it comes to the cilia, these are hair-like and they will cover the full body margin. That means they are more in number, shorter than the flagella, and the cilia are used for locomotion, other than locomotion, to take the food particle inside the body and also have the sensation activity. Now coming to the locomotory speed, that can be important and can be asked in your exams. So basically with the help of flagella, the speed will be 15 to 30 mm per second, and with the help of cilia, the speed will be 400 to 2000 micrometer per second. Now the structure of the flagella will be having two parts. The part that is present inside the body is known as axone, and the part which is present outside the body is known as the free flagella. And the axone is having 2 plus 9 filament arrangement. You should remember there are 2 filaments central and there are 9 double filaments in the periphery. And the flagellar movement is present in the mastigophora, that is trypanosomes and the trichomonas. The flagella, the cilias, the arrangement of the cilias on the body, it will give the basis of classification of ciliates. That can be important in your exams. And this type of locomotion is present in the Balantidium coli. Moving to the next slide. Okay, so here I have given the first antamoeba, that is having the pseudopodia. You can see over here, this is the pseudopodia. The next is the flagellar movement. You can see over here trichomonas, trypanosoma, giardia, leishmania. They are all having flagella and they will move by the flagellar movement. Then the cilia, which is present in the Balantidium coli. So you can see over here the full body is covered with the cilia. Okay, and the next is the gliding movement, which is seen in case of Toxoplasma gondii. You can see here the parasites are moving with the help of the gliding motion. Now the nutrition. So it can be holophytic. Phytic means plant-like nutrition. Holozoic or the phagotrophic, that means the animal-like nutrition, and the saprozoic. Okay, so a plant-like nutrition, that means they can synthesize the food with the help of chlorophylls in the presence of light, and this will be present in case of free living protozoa. And most of the protozoas, they will be having parasitic protozoas, they will be having either holozoic or the saprozoic type of nutrition. So holozoic type of nutrition means they will be taking the preformed food either with the help of the pseudopodia, that is the temporary structures, or with the help of the mouth opening, that is known as cytostome. And these are the structures used for taking the food. Once the food will be taken inside the body, it will be digested in the phagosomes or the food vacuoles. And this type of nutrition will be seen in case of most of the protozoas, for example, Antamoeba and the Balantidium coli. When it comes to the saprozoic nutrition, which is seen in case of trypanosomes, so basically they will take the organic food materials from their body surface in the form of diffusion or the osmosis process. Now the next is excretion. So basically they will be having either the temporary structures, that is known as cytophage, or we can say the anal-like structures to excrete the waste products, or they will be having the contractile vacuoles, they will be having the osmoregulation activities, and for the excretion. Also they can throw or they can do the excretion via the body surface in the form of diffusion or the osmosis process. Next is the respiration. So they will do the respiration by the general body surface in the form of osmosis. So you should remember the free living protozoas, they will be taking the oxygen in the free molecular oxygen, and the parasitic protozoas, they will be splitting the oxygen that will be present in the host tissue. So this is all about today's class. In the next class, we are going to discuss reproduction and histories in the protozoology. So thank you for watching the video. If you have liked the video, just like, share and subscribe to the channel. Comment below which subject you would like me to take next. Till then, take care. Bye-bye.